Greetings, everyone. I'm excited to welcome Michael Matias, CEO and co-founder at Clarity. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ben. Great to be
Hey,
here.
great to have you on. So let's dive right in. Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I'm Michael Matias, 28, co-founder and CEO of Clarity. My background is in more technically in offensive cybersecurity. I spent about 5 years doing that in the IDF as an officer, but always really interested in behavioral economics, irrationality, product development, working with Dan Ariely and other passions in musical theater, tennis, robotics. So very multidisciplinary nature, but I really got into cybersecurity and the way artificial intelligence is shaping cybersecurity from the IDF perspective, but then also at Stanford University dove more into the intersection of AI and cyber in the context of society and political science and how the stability of our financial institutions and our political structures and election systems are going to adapt. Ended up going into investing in startups with innovation endeavors and Eric Schmidt's team with some amazing folks there and other VCs as well, and ended up on the creation side of deepfakes for research purposes. It's part of the university, and it got a little scary, I have to say, seeing what's happening and where we're heading from a generative AI perspective. It was before we called it generative AI. And so I remember my democracy professor's reaction when he saw my deepfakes that this is $1 billion assault on democracy. And effectively, that was the day that we decided to start Clarity to fight deepfakes and help preserve trust.
Oh, that's great. Love that background. And so, yeah, let's talk about Clarity. Tell us about the products and or services that Clarity offers.
So Clarity is an early stage startup. We started really 15 months ago. So we're a deep tech company that we're very research driven in our ability to create novel techniques and ways to identify deepfakes and distinguish between what is real and what is fake. Our products really are centered around this core ability to identify what is authentic and what is synthetic. So they range anything from being very infrastructure driven by providing our services through APIs and SDKs. And for some use cases, we provide applications and UI platforms to enable users and organizations and analysts to verify media. And now we also are integrating into more enterprise use cases like video conferencing and how do you authenticate and verify the integrity of the interaction that we're having right now.
Oh, that's amazing. So let's just level set a bit here and just make sure we know that because the tech here, I think, can get pretty sophisticated. Like a deep fake. I mean,
Yeah.
this can mean like you just mentioned some use cases there, but generally, what do we think when we talk about deep fakes? Is it video? Is it voice? Is it both?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think that we are all right now starting to sort of define much better what these terms are. Deepfakes, as far as we're concerned, are the really accurate impersonation of identities, and so they're really centered around people. They're centered around your face and your voice. It's what makes you you. We have just like we have our fingerprints and our fingers, our behavior, our identity is a rather large fingerprint with many different parameters. Deepfakes aim to replicate that. And when I say replicating that, I mean taking the things that make you you and being able to create a synthetic version of that using AI. And so on the surface level, they look like you and they sound like you, but it goes beyond that. They also talk like you and they behave like you. And so we're just at the really the beginning of this new market that's emerging around the threat of synthetic impersonations, and they're getting really good.
Yeah, and so would that popular example that came up, I guess, with actor Tom Hanks, didn't he? There was a deep fake there with, say, dental insurance or something like that. So would
Mhm.
that be an example of a deep fake?
Exactly. So we start seeing celebrities popping up on our social media where they are representing some product or some service or some investment opportunity, and they never participated in that. But it didn't stop the content creators from using their likeness. And yeah, 100%.
And what type of customers are you going after for your product right now? What's your ideal customer profile at this point?
Yeah, so there's many different organizations and ICPs that are really care about this problem. It ranges from the editorial management of news outlets to the trust and safety of social media platforms, all the way to the security personnel of enterprises and organizations. And so I would say at this point we're still learning how the market is evolving, and we're deploying our solutions to different ICPs. And I think that over the next year or so, the market will mature, and I think different companies in the space will have the ability to pick and choose which ICPs they really care about.
Yeah, yeah, it just seems like it's going to be a growing problem. And so you mentioned founded about 15 months ago, so that what puts us towards end of 22 when you founded the
Yep.
company? Okay.
Yep.
And then do you guys have a HQ location or are you all virtual?
So we're spread between the US and Israel. Our core R&D is in Tel Aviv. It's an Israeli AI and cybersecurity startup. Our founding team is Israeli, and so are many of our employees. We also believe that there's a special synergy in the way that the experiences that folks in Israel get from the combination of unique cybersecurity experience in the IDF plus AI and academia in places like Stanford and the Technion and MIT, and bringing these two worlds together under a dynamic cybersecurity mindset, which I think we all embody. And I'm primarily based out of New York and California, and that's where we're doing the majority of our customer relationships and deployments, as well as our investors. So we're really living in those two areas.
Okay. And then say current customer base, is it global? Is it a specific geographic region right now?
I would say it's pretty global. So
Yeah.
we have customers all over the world. I think that if as a I guess young entrepreneur, to me, it doesn't make sense that we need to focus on a single geographical location. I mean, there are nuances when it comes to sales cycles and language barriers and cultures, but in a digital world in which the problem you're solving is so widespread and so common to different industries, I think that geography hasn't been a specific consideration here.
Yeah. And what's your current team size?
We're about 16 full time, I believe. We're
16
hiring now, so it's
hiring.
changing on a weekly basis. But last time I remember we're 16.
Yeah, that's great. And then anything you want to share around revenue ranges, AR ranges?
I mean, yeah, we're in early deployments with customers, so we're getting different revenues from different customers. I think that it's a significant question, particularly as you're really doubling down on the core use cases. We're finding great traction across multiple use cases, and so I think that what we have decided and what are really focused on is this question of. Obviously, ARR is a critical question, especially as we navigate from seed to Series A. But an even more important question that I encourage all of us to be thinking about is how do we perceive the value that we're creating in an emerging category, in an emerging problem space. The revenue you're generating is not always tied to the value you're creating, especially as the market is just getting educated. And so what I deeply care about, beyond just looking at the revenue numbers and seeing them grow, I really care about how do we get to core convictions that what we're doing actually makes a difference, that the customers we're deploying to actually look at what we're doing and are saying, wow, thank you for existing. Thank you for being a part of our ecosystem. And I believe that by doing that, that will have a direct translation to an increase in profitability. And so focusing very much on value creation.
Yeah, definitely. And tell us a little about your go-to-market motion because a lot of different use cases, customer profiles. So how are you handling that right now? How are you finding prospects and landing customers?
Right now, most of our go-to-market is direct to the ICP that we believe is an early adopter. I think that as the market will evolve and mature and market awareness will ensue, we'll have different opportunities for either a really unique and cool PLG motions and different bottoms up and tops down. But right now, as we're just doing, the first, I guess, dozen or 2 dozen deployments, really we're looking at how do we find this direct ICP, look them in the eye, make sure they understand what we're doing, we understand what they need, find the right partnership so that we can again go back to asking this core question, am I creating value for you? And so in that regard, we're still focusing on direct.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And let's switch over to the fundraising side. It looks like you've recently raised a seed round. It looks like 16 million. Is that right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. And was that your first raise then?
Yeah, it's a combination of the fundraising that we've done since we
Okay.
started the company, which again was pretty not so long ago.
Yeah, not too long ago. But yeah, that's a decent sized seed round. So tell us in your journey, say 15 months in, what were those triggers or milestones that, and I don't know if there was a significant portion to that raise that happened at some point, but was there a trigger milestone that led you to raising some capital?
I think, what the way that we started out was we were several people that we deeply care about this problem, and we were able to very quickly attract, I think, some of the best talent in the world to deal with it. And so that was really the first step. And we had our, amazing network of investors and advisors, both VC funds as well as very strategic AI and cyber and angel investors, including some early customers invest in us because they understood that this is going to be a really unique problem that requires deep tech solution, and we are probably the team that can execute on that. And then we spent several months really proving that thesis. So the world spent its time developing these new gen AI dynamics, from the private companies that are building digital avatars to deepfake threats in political systems and election systems, and the market became educated, and we were able to prove pretty quickly that we have some pretty decent technology to do what we need to do. And it's a technology that not only is impressive today, but it's a technology that can adapt and be resilient and robust over time. And so that goes again back to our experience in operating in highly dynamic cybersecurity mindsets and experiences. And so I think that we reached a point about less than a year into our journey where we said, okay, we have an amazing team, we have a great technology, we have this emerging problem, and we have initial customers that just absolutely love what we're doing, and they derive real value. And yes, there's still questions that to be answered from the business side and the go-to-market motions, and those will will adapt over time. And quite frankly, nobody yet knows how this industry is evolving. But what we do know is that there's going to be a few winners in the space, and seeing the complexity and the barrier to entry and how dynamic it is, that was the time to make a bet on these companies. And so I'm very proud that Bessemer and Walden co-led our seed round. I think they're two of the most amazing funds in the world, and I'm deeply inspired by working with them, as well as the other investors we have.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that insight. And for other founders who are maybe at a similar stage, say less than 2 years into the journey, thinking about a seed round, any fundraising lessons learned in that process that you'd like to share with other founders?
Yeah, I think focusing on, sort of the pain point and how big it's gonna be, focusing on the team and how you are the team that's gonna dedicate the next 10 years to fighting this, and then showing that you're able efficiently and quickly to derive real value. I think those are the three key elements, because as long as you're operating in a space that's highly evolving and is growing and is a large enough pain point, your product and your technology will evolve with it. What you really want to prove is that you're operating in a space that's going to continue being, important with a large TAM, if you will. You want to prove that you are the team that's resilient and adaptive that can actually solve it, but then you want to show that it's not just theoretical. From an execution perspective, you can actually sit down and build something, and you can build something that either is great technology or a great product, or hopefully both. And so I think focusing on these three elements and sort of putting aside a lot of the other less critical items, it'll differ between each VC fund and what they care about. And I think what was impactful for us is that as we were talking to different organizations and groups, I was very clear on seeing who really gets it, right? Who really gets what's happening here. And yeah, it's not like I get everything, but is there some fundamental alignment on how big this problem is, and the fact that tackling it is a worthy cause financially and from an impact perspective? And once we get that out of the way, now we're playing. Now we can talk, and we can understand each other and discover each other. And I just found that was an extremely important part of the initial conversation.
Yeah, appreciate that insight. It sounds like you're alluding a little bit to founder investor fit. That,
Mhm.
like you said, that you're speaking the same language, they get it, what you're talking about.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that it's very hard to convince somebody of a large market or of a large enough problem. And I think that it's just there's so many amazing investors out there and amazing partners and employees and customers that you just in these early stages, you really want to focus on those that get it and can just move with you in the momentum, because otherwise you'll get bogged down, you'll get demotivated, and you may lose sight of why you started the company in the first place.
And Michael, at this stage of your business as CEO, do you have a favorite number or metric that you focus on to guide the business?
I think that we're really focused on what constitutes for us value creation.
Mhm.
So going back to so if I ask myself, okay, how do I know that I'm creating value? So for us, we're creating value through the volume of media that we're verifying. We're creating value with how many interactions do we have with our customer and what is their experience like when they run an analysis with us. We derive value with how quickly can we show to ourselves that we're adapting our AI models and technologies to the arms race. And so if we go into the office, we have a dashboard with these different boxes and metrics, and we have four key metrics that we care about. And when I think about what sort of common to all of them, it's all a question of if we get all these four metrics in the green zone, to us that means that we're creating real value to our customers.
Okay, great. Yeah, appreciate that. And then, Michael, appreciate your time today. As we wrap up, tell us what's coming up next for Clarity.
Deploy, deploy, deploy. The deepfakes are here. Deepfakes are aggressive. They're disruptors, and we are here to make a big impact. And I think that throughout 2024, we will find Clarity becoming a larger and larger piece of this integrity puzzle of how do you preserve trust in digital media. So I'm really excited about what's coming up.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Michael, really appreciate your time and sharing your experiences today. If listeners would like to learn more about Clarity, where should we send them online?
Welcome to go to our website, getclarity.ai, my own LinkedIn, Michael Matias, or that of any of our employees and co-founders. I would love to hear from you.
Well, perfect. If listeners, if you'd like to learn more, check out getclarity.ai to learn more. And Michael, really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ben.